Welcome to episode 5 of Medical Edibles. My name is Chef Tanya Nicole. I'm a chef and a culinary nutritionist.
So the fuck what?
And today I'm going to teach you how to make cornbread. We're going to make both a sweet and a savory version.
Are you crazy? What if the cops come?
We're making this cornbread recipe for reggae legend Stephen Marley.
This is the funnest night ever!
Today's episode is sponsored by Fat Bowl and the new comedy web series, The Weekend Warriors. It's adult humor with a lot of cannabis. Go to our playlist section if you'd like to see a preview.
What are we talking about again?
Before we get started, subscribe and click the bell so you get all of our notifications. You're going to start off with kief. If you need to learn how to decarb your kief, check out episode 3 on our playlist. You'll also need kosher salt, pepper, chipotle chili pepper, all-purpose flour, sugar, cornmeal, evaporated milk and honey, eggs, unsalted butter,
Wrap it up.
spraying vegetable oil,
You better wrap it up.
cheddar cheese liquid smoke, roasted corn, roasted jalapeno, bacon, and scallions.
Yeah, well, good luck with it.
For today's recipe, you'll need a cutting board and knife, a spoon, a spatula, a whisk, measuring spoons, measuring cups, something to portion out your mixture.
My God, are you still talking?
You'll need a saucepan, a sifter, or if you don't have a sifter, you can use a small strainer, and several mixing bowls of different sizes. You can see here that I have a very large loaf pan because I make quite a few of these. What I like to do is I cut a piece of parchment paper that would fit the bottom of the pan. I spray the pan with some canola oil, and then I just place the parchment paper on the bottom there. That way when you go to take your loaves out, they'll come out really easily. I like to be preventative, spray it, and that way I know it's gonna come out. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. We're going to start off by measuring and sifting our flour. We're going to do 2 cups of flour for this recipe. And I usually just put my sifter right over the bowl. The great thing about this recipe is all the dry ingredients go in one bowl and all the wet ingredients go in the other, okay? If you don't have one of these sifters here, you can use a strainer. Now when measuring anything, if it tells you 1 cup, 2 cup, whatever the measurement is, you want to make sure you get a full cup. And then you have a nice full measure. And now it goes right in the sifter. Try to get most of it in there. If you look at the texture of the flour, you'll see the difference. We want to separate the flour by sifting, almost as if they were individual particles. We're going to measure 2 cups of cornmeal. I happen to like to use Bob Mills, and this is a medium grind. You can find it fine grind, I just happen to like medium. And that means the coarseness of the grain. A good idea is to measure right over your bowl. That way if you spill, you don't make so much of a mess. And then again, just like the flour, you just want to make sure you get a complete measure. Now, because it's a medium grain, there may be some pieces that don't get sifted, and that's fine. Again, I'm just sifting what I can so I can get a very light, airy texture in my cornbread.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
It's a good workout. Those are the thicker grains, so you see the thin ones? Next, we're going to do 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt.
There's so many things about what you just said that make it not kosher.
Sift it into the mixture. And again, if you have any particles left over, you can push it through with a spoon or a spatula. Our final dry ingredient is kief. We're going to decarb our kefir Sutherland.
Tell me where the bomb is.
To decarb your kief, just put it in the oven at 300 degrees for 7 minutes. Then you want to let it completely cool before you add it to any item. Now let's add some kief. We're using 3 grams of kief. Mix thoroughly with a whisk. If you find that you have some large kief lumps in the batter, you want to make sure to just pop them in between your fingers before you add the wet ingredients so that your kief is evenly distributed throughout your batter. When you decarb the kief, it really compacts together. For our wet ingredients, we're going to start by melting 2 sticks of butter. All of our ingredients have been taken out of the fridge so that they can come to room temperature before preparing this recipe. If you don't have kief, you can use canna butter instead. We're going to put this on a low to medium heat. We just want to completely melt the butter so that we can add it to the other wet ingredients. Start with 2 cups of evaporated milk. You're going to need about 1.5 cans. I love evaporated milk because I can just have it in the pantry. So if you store it in an airtight container in the fridge, you can use it for other recipes. If you want to substitute with regular milk, you can do that. Next, 4 large eggs. You want to crack them in a separate bowl in case you get any shells or the egg is rotten. That way you don't mess up the entire batch. Let's add the melted butter. Lastly, we'll do the honey and then we can start blending everything all together. You want to use your canola oil or your vegetable oil to spray your measuring cup. We're using 1/4 cup of honey. Spray it lightly. I happen to be using organic honey.
Honey, honey, do 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 do.
Side note, if you eat local honey, it'll help your allergies. If you don't have canna butter and if you don't have kief, you can use infused honey. Now give it a good whisk. You want to make sure that the egg yolk and the egg white have completely blended with the rest of the mixture. I like to try to break the yolks before I scramble them. Before I mix our dry and our wet ingredients, I'm going to chop up the rest of the ingredients for our savory cornbread. You don't want to mix your dry, wet ingredients, then go chop everything, then add it to the batch. You want to get them in the oven fairly quickly because you don't want the batter to sit for too long. So I have 5 pieces of bacon here. You can add more or less depending on your liking.
Let's celebrate with bacon.
For Stephen Marley, I'm going to give him the honey cornbread. A lot of people don't eat pork, so this way I ensure that he actually likes what he gets. And this will be for the savory recipe. Again, I love bacon, so these will be perfectly fine, safe here with me.
Bacon.
We're going to slice up some scallions. I think I'll only use 4 of these. I like to use the green and the white part of the scallion.
Oh, he's shooting.
I already roasted the jalapeno pepper and the corn, and all I did was take each one and put them on top of the gas stove burner, and then I'll turn it ever so slightly as it gets charred. You don't have to do this, but I like that it adds a smoky flavor. The bacon is smoked, the corn and the jalapenos are roasted, and that'll add another layer of smokiness as well.
Smoke.
So I like to cut the little stem off, and then you want to put your hand flat and curl your fingers up and run the knife through the middle of the jalapeno, looking as you're doing it. And then we're just going to cut this little membrane out.
Put it in your mouth. Shut up.
And I'll make sure to take out all the seeds as well. So you want to just give this a nice mince so that you have small pieces of the jalapeno throughout. Be careful after you've handled jalapeno. Your hands are very spicy, so even when you wash your hands, be careful touching your eyes, anywhere on your face, or your southern regions.
Everywhere's on fire!
I'm going to cut the corn in half. That way it's easier for me to get the kernels off. You're going to make a little well right in the middle. And then we're just pouring the wet ingredients right in. You don't want to over mix this. You want to mix it until it's just well combined. So make sure you get all the edges, the sides, and the bottom. You just want to make sure there are no dry pockets. As we mix it, you'll see the flour absorbing the liquid. So this recipe's done. If you just wanted to make the sweet honey cornbread, you can make your recipe out of what we just did. But since I want to make a savory batch, I'm going to split this batch in half and then add the rest of the ingredients to the second batch.
You gonna eat your cornbread?
We divided the batch in half. We had a total of 6 cups. There are 3 cups here. Now we're going to add all of our ingredients for our savory cornbread. We're going to add a cup of extra sharp cheddar cheese. If you go a little over, it's okay. Make sure you break up all the corn kernels. You want about a cup. We'll do bacon. We need every last drop.
There is so much beauty in the world.
Scallions, jalapenos. We're going to add a good amount of black pepper. And half a teaspoon of chipotle chili pepper. Mix well to combine. I'm going to start with the sweet honey cornbread.
Done now. If he wants some cornbread, let him go up to the front and get his own portion of cornbread. That's your cornbread.
I'm using this so I can get a uniformed portion size. You can use a measuring cup or anything else that you have. You want to fill each mold about 2/3 of the way up so that it has room to rise. Now we'll portion out our savory cornbread. I like to put it all the way on the other side of the cake pan so that I know which are which. But these are very visibly different. Again, you want to make sure you don't fill it all the way up to the top. We have a total of 15 cornbread loaves, some sweet, some savory. We use 3 grams of kief, and each loaf is 120 milligrams. We're going to put these in the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. While those are baking, this is a perfect time to take a break. A smoke break.
This is good shit.
So roll up a joint, pack the bong, take a dab, whatever you gotta do to be cool.
Cause then I'll be cute.
So I personally don't mind the spice in the jalapeno cornbread.
I ordered fucking jalapeno.
But if you don't want it to be spicy, you can omit the jalapeno and you can omit the smoky chipotle chili pepper.
Jalapeno, not jalapeno.
For the sweet honey cornbread loaves that we're giving Stephen Marley, I'm going to let them completely cool and then I'm going to decorate them. The cornbread has completely cooled. You just want to take a regular knife and just use it to pop out the corn loaf. And as you can see, it popped out really easily.
Popcorn player.
Sometimes the parchment paper will stick to the bottom of the loaf and just peel it off. As you can see, the parchment paper didn't come off with this one. Let's cut each loaf to see what the inside looks like, because it's the inside that counts. Each loaf is 120 milligrams, so I like to cut it into 4 pieces.
It's beautiful.
Look at how delicious that looks. You see the medium grind cornmeal. It's nice and fluffy. It's nice and golden brown on the outside, nice and airy on the inside. You can see the medium cornmeal grinds. Now we're going to cut into our savory cornmeal loaf. This one has smoked mesquite bacon with jalapeno peppers and roasted corn, scallions, and extra sharp cheddar cheese. And did I say bacon? You can see all the components in this loaf that make it delicious. I'm going to design a Jamaican flag.
What part of Jamaica?
For the sweet honey cornbread that I'm going to give to Stephen Marley. First we're going to add the yellow so that we have an outline for the rest of the triangles. For the green part of the flag, I'm just going to use some candy melts with that color. I've melted it here. Then I'm going to take it and spread some on. And you're just going to spread it just like if you were spreading peanut butter. And then I'm going to take my small knife and I'm going to lightly press it to the edge. You want to be careful as you work towards the edges. For the black, I'm using already dyed decorating icing. It's just confectioner's sugar with some water and then some dye added to it. That's exactly what I did with the yellow. Just take your time. If it gets too cold, you could stick it in the microwave and that will soften it up. Now that we've finished all the colors in the flag, we're going to re-outline the yellow. Here they are, sweet honey cornbread for Stephen Marley.
But meme, I have to get the first one as people won't think I'm cute.
I hope he likes them. It was an honor to bake for a legend like him.
Come here, buddy. Only cornbread.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
Don't overdo, huh?
Here's the kitchen. This is the kitchen.
This is the kitchen.
Oh my god. And you made these.
Yes, I did. I'm Chef Tanya Nicole. Medical edibles.
Medical edible.
Yeah, so they're medicated with kief.
And then what's good?
You'll be okay.
With one or half or a quarter?
It depends. You want to wait like 45 minutes to 2 hours and see how it feels.
With
But,
what? Like a pinch?
Oh, it's awesome.
Okay.
Delicious
Yeah, the
stuff.
taste, it's always awesome. But then
Impressive.
half an hour later, like, I see the blood going through my head. Serious. And people tell me, oh.
What a great guy and great hospitality. And for everyone else, we have our smoked mesquite bacon with jalapenos and scallions and extra sharp cheddar cheese and roasted corn.
Guys, this has gone on way too long.
This is episode 5 of Mmmedical Edibles. Thank you to our sponsors, Fat Bowl, and the comedy show, The Weekend Warriors. Want to be in the know? Subscribe to our mailing list. How? Comment below and we'll get in touch with you.
Did I remember to turn the stove off?
Please subscribe, comment, and give us a green thumbs up.
That was awesome.
I'm rolling up all your rolling up all your rolling up the exotic. I'm rolling up all your rolling up all your rolling up exotic.
This is not for you. No chocolate for your doggy.